Good morning, Twitch. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to my office. I'm Matt Groves, and thank you, TBD Gamer, for subscribing before we even got started today. Really appreciate it. Love TBD Gamer. I only wish that he didn't have to run to a meeting so we could see his intro video with the A-Team. But we're past that now. Hey, Gamelor, what's going on? Good to see you as well. Thanks for stopping by. All right, so we are in... This is number 93. And Taylor and Code is here as well. Well, all the gang's all here. Taylor and Code. We're going to work on some Code PaLOusa stuff today. So good to see you. Maybe you can help out. Make Code PaLOusa even better. Or my presentation at least. All right, so that's what my main thing I want to accomplish today is want to get started on creating some slides for Code PaLOusa. So I've already written down a rough outline of the presentation. I've written content on this. I've got some code samples ready to go. So now I just need to get to the actual slide presentation stuff, which is usually where I have all this stuff planned out. When I start putting it to slides, I start to think about it in different order and think of, oh, I'm missing that part, so I have to add it. So it's an important step for me, get those slides going. It's not really an afterthought. It's like it's kind of where I actually put pen to paper in a presentation. And but before that, I want to edit a CONDG video, edit and release a CONDG video from Thursday. It's something I didn't get to do on Friday, and I forgot to do yesterday, ran out of time, and so I want to get that started today. It shouldn't take too long, but I want to get it going first because it does take Twitch a while to actually render the clip and everything. So I want to get on that. Hopefully that'll be done by the end of the stream today. So if you're new to the stream, or maybe you're new to the beginning of the stream, this is sort of the motto here, is the only stupid question is one you don't ask. So ask away. Any questions you got, anything that you think is silly is not silly. This is a friendly place, a safe place to ask questions. And hopefully they're related to tech or development in some way, but ask questions. It's fine. It's totally cool. That's how we learn, right? So Team Live Coders I'm a member of this team, and we'll go check it out, twitch.tv/team/Live Coders. You see C# Fritz is going strong, and Lana Lux, of course, always near the top of the list there. But this is a list of everybody who's streaming right now with the red dots, and then this is the rest of the people who are on the team who are not streaming at the moment. They may be streaming later. We're going to come back to this page and towards the end of the stream and find someone to raid. And we'll keep it going. We'll pick someone from that list, unless someone else has a better suggestion in chat, and we'll raid them. We'll go check out their stream. But if you're looking for a live coder to follow, this is a great place to start. Lots of great people on this team who are live coding streaming, and I'll just post a little link here with the bot. Make sure the bot's working. It is. All right. You can also check out the awesome developers streaming list, which is on GitHub. It's just a big list, a big text file. People who are streaming. Don't have to be on a team. Don't have to be even on Twitch. It could be YouTube, could be Periscope, or all of the above. But here is a list of them, and you can just do a Control F and search for a term or a name or a technology, a topic, and then follow everyone who is streaming about that topic. One day, aka never, I'll start streaming too. I would like to see a Gamelor stream. I think that would be fun. Let's see what you're up to, Gamelor. Maybe you can do a stream where you draw some of your famous stick figures for one of your blog posts, and you can show us your drawing process, which I'm sure is a very complicated artistic process. All right, and previous episodes of this live stream are posted to YouTube. You can go find those at bit.ly/GrovesTube. Find the old episodes there. Leave a comment or a question in your comment, and I will answer it in a future stream. And while you're over there, just hit that like button, subscribe button, follow, notifications, all that good stuff, right? I would appreciate that. But this is a great place to go if you're more into the watching at 2x speed or skipping around sort of thing. If you're more into live interaction, Twitch is the right place for you. If you just want to get to the content or just skim through the content, YouTube is the right place for you. So we've got both available. Or I've got both available. So here you go, bit.ly/GrovesTube. Go check it out. Events coming up. So I want to mention this one today, and I'm going to give a shout out to Manning Publications. if I can spell it right. So 4 p.m. Eastern time today, Manning has asked me to mention this. They've got an author, a Manning author. So Manning's a book publishing company, tech books. And this author is presenting his new Linux laptop. And that's all the details I have right now. But it sounds kind of intriguing. Like, what is it about this new Linux laptop that Manning wants to talk about? So I'd recommend stopping over there at 4 p.m. later today. So that's 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 6 hours from now. Check over there on Manning Publications and see what they're up to. If I'm not busy with something else, I will go and check that out as well. Maybe I'll just put it on the background, see what the big deal is. Code PaLOusa is coming up August 19th through the 21st. Yes, it is, and I'll be working on that today, but I'm just letting you know, now is a good time for you to register for this event, CodePaLOusa.com. It's online this year. It's a virtual event, unlike past years, for what should be hopefully obvious reasons at this point. But it's going to be, hopefully, it's going to capture some of that same Code PaLOusa magic, so you want to go and register for this. I will be presenting, developing, and deploying your first ASP.NET Core microservice to Kubernetes on August 21st, but there's 3 days of Code PaLOusa with all kinds of great stuff there, so you want to register and sign up for that, CodePaLOusa.com. And if you're interested in speaking, you definitely want to go and check this out. So I work for a company called Couchbase, and we have our conference coming up here in October 14th and 15th. It's called Couchbase Connect. The call for speakers is open right now. So if you know anything about Couchbase or NoSQL or document databases, or you have something to say that you think a Couchbase audience would be interested in, I want you to submit to this. Saduki, hey Saduki, what's going on? Good to see ya. What's up, Saduki? The Linux laptop thing Manning is doing later is related to this. Oh, spoiler alert. Let's see, Kubuntu, a new top-of-the-line Linux laptop arrives. Okay. Well, you want to check that out. The Kubuntu Focus. Oh, so it's like an unboxing sort of session, I guess. Although I imagine he's probably already unboxed and set it up. I would hope, in advance of the session. Or maybe not. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But thank you for that, Suzuki. So you definitely want to check that out at Manning. If you're interested in Linux, interested in laptops, interested in Ubuntu, Kubuntu, all kinds of interesting stuff. Using Kubuntu Focus for development appears in their schedule for today. Wow, Saduki is in here just dropping information about Manning. So thank you for that, Saduki. Go check those links out. And again, check back at 4 p.m. on that. But as I was saying, Couchbase Connect, if you want to get in and speak at this event, I believe most of them are going to be pre-recorded sessions. So if you're nervous about live presentations, that's okay. No problem. We'll get those pre-recorded. Then there'll still be an opportunity for you to interact live with people who are viewing the, I think this is how it's going to work. I'm not 100% sure on the details. But there'll be opportunity for you to interact live with people who are viewing the session. So anyway, get signed up for that now. And it doesn't have to be a long session. It can be a quick, like 15-minute session, maybe even less if that's all you need. And it can be longer sessions too. So you want to get signed up for that. Again, if you've done anything with Couchbase, or if you have something to say about NoSQL in general, document databases in general, distributed computing, Kubernetes, all that good stuff, go sign up here for the CFP, sessionize.com/Couchbase Connect Online. I'm going to plug it one more time just because I am really excited about how we're opening this up to a broader speaking audience this year, and I really want the community to get involved with that. So please check that out. That'll be closing on August 21st. So you got the better part of a month left to get those proposals written and submitted. And I don't think you have to have the whole slide deck or anything prepared when you submit the CFP. You just have to have a title and an abstract and, some tags and things like that. And then you can work on that content, as you go along, leading up to October. So you got plenty of time, lots of options. So please submit away to that one. All right. And just a reminder, if you have enough Buckazoids, you want to cash those in. Let's see, will the Couchbase Connect online content appear here eventually? Connect.couchbase.com. I think so, Saduki. I'm not 100% sure on that. This is content from previous years of Couchbase Connect. I think that's the intent, is to get those online, but I'm not 100% sure about that yet. I would fully expect that to be the case. If not this website, then perhaps a similar one to it. So this is content from, the last one was New York, I think in late 2019 or something, or maybe that was the Europe one, that was late 2019. Anyway, Silicon Valley 2018, but I think there's another one 2019 in Europe. So it's going to be online this year, so it's not tied to a specific city, but that might be a good place to look for the content eventually. And if you might just want to look at this to see what kind of presentations were given in the past. Now, again, this year's Connect is attempting to be more developer focused. So a lot of these presentations you see here, like if you click on the Watch Demand, you'll see some of these sessions that are a little more higher level and not as technical related. Some of them very much are. So this one's on full text search. We've got about some presentation from customers and users. But some of these sessions are very sort of higher architect level sessions, and we're going to have hopefully some more. We're going to have some of those again, but hopefully some more developer focused sessions as well. So I'm looking forward to those, and I'd like to get a lot more community presentations in. So like the top 3 here, you can see these are all from Couchbase employees, Couchbase employee. But I mean, there's a few that are from customers and stuff. But I'm very excited that we're going to get some community presentations on there. So that's going to be based on that CFP that we get there. So that's why I am promoting it the best I can. If you want to spend your Buckazoids, you can go check out the channel points right over here under the chat box. See the little icon there? You're earning Buckazoids just for hanging out with me. And you can cash those in. There's lots of things you can do by cashing them in, but one of the coolest ones is if you want to stop everything, I will throw up a game of trivia or a quick game of Jackbox, and we can all play it. Now, if I were you, I'd make sure you have some people who are around that want to join in before you cash those points in, because some of those games require at least 3 players, and they're certainly more fun as you get more and more players. But that's a reward that's available to you. Someone's redeemed it once already, so I could just drop everything and we'll start playing Jackbox at some point. Last stream, did the MVP award unboxing. That was lots of fun. That's all done. We talked about this question from YouTube, so it was about theming. So I went through theming with Visual Studio Code, and I talked about that. And I think we addressed that question. Then I decided to explore the themes and the fonts, so I looked into what themes I do have and how they look different. I put them side by side, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. I checked into Windows Terminal theming, and I wasn't quite sure how to get that work, and I wasn't really super motivated. I'm very happy with the default theme that's there. And then someone in the chat had a question about a dark theme for Google or Bing, and I couldn't figure out how to do that without a browser extension, so we kind of bailed on that one as well. Covered a forum question, got that one. Didn't quite get a resolution on it, but we did test out something and post some more information to the forum thread, so haven't heard anything from that thread since. But that's what we did in the past. Just a quick recap there. In the future, I still got this database backup. It's still on my list. I've made lots of notes here about what I want to do, but it's going to be in the future. I'm going to keep putting off backup. I know that's a mistake probably. If anybody who's an ops watching, like, no, backup's the most important thing. But for right now, actually the data on there is not super important. So if it all goes away tomorrow, it's totally fine. But I do want to set up a backup process just so I know, A, how to do it, and B, so that I don't lose this data, because it's not super important, but it is still interesting data. So Clash of Code may visit that if we have, a little gap of time somewhere. Chatbot, always got a huge chatbot backlog. Not just backing up, making sure that's a useful backup that can restore properly from Sudoku. Absolutely, right? Yeah. So that is, of course, number 5 here in the process I want to do is once I have a backup, can I actually use it and restore it properly? I definitely mentioned that in the last stream. That's a very important part of having backups, is testing them. So so I've got a script in mind to do that, and we'll see if that can work. There's a few things I've never done before, like this AZ copy tool for Azure Blob Storage, and sending a notification from an Azure VM. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that one just yet, but those are things that I need to work on. I think I can write a script to do at least most of those things. C# Advent website. I love it when a short meeting is actually short. I love when a plan comes together. Hey, TBD Gamer, I'm glad your meeting was actually short. Those are my favorite as well. Meetings that end before the scheduled ending time. Yes, because usually it means that the something was accomplished fairly quickly, or didn't actually need to be a meeting, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, let's just meet some other time. How goes it today? It's going all right. How's it going with you? I'm glad you're here. Just going through my future plans. So the C# Advent website, want to get some work on that here very soon. It's already, we're almost done with July, and I'd hope to have something in place, at least some requirements. I've got a requirements document, but my sort of co-manager, I guess, C# Advent, I don't know, co-worker, I don't know, what partner, I guess, is busy with some important family personal stuff right now, so haven't got as much work on that done as I'd like, but we'll get there. Worst case, I can fall back to the plain old blog post that I've been doing in years past. And then Azure Functions with Slack. I already did this basically. I didn't do it on stream, but I'm not going to repeat myself, so that was very, very easy and pretty much trivial to do, so I'm not going to cover that. So today, 3 things. Always, of course, answering your questions. Always doing this. I will drop everything to answer a question. But I'm going to get a CONDG video out today. This is a relatively simple process, but it does take some time. And once we get that underway, I'm going to switch gears and come back here and start working on some slides for my Code PaLOusa presentation. So let's get into it. I'm going to bring up Twitch website here. I don't want to view myself, but I'm going to go to Video Manager, Video Producer. I just want to make sure there's nothing sensitive here. I don't think so. So here it is. If you've never seen this before, this is the video producer on Twitch, and it shows all the past streams that I've had, up to, I don't know how long it keeps them, 30 days or whatever. It looks like it keeps highlights indefinitely, so that's interesting. But it looks like back to episode 81 of Office Hours, and it's expiring in 4 days. There we go. And so again, you can view these on YouTube if you want to. But one thing I've been doing for CONDG, which is Central Ohio .NET Developers Group, is we've been hosting them online, hosting them virtually. And I've been hosting them all on my own Twitch. Hopefully, I'm not going to be the only one doing this going forward, but for now, I'm the one hosting them. And so what I've got here is the recording from Thursday's meeting with Rockford Rocky Lotka, about run your business logic everywhere. Yes, there's a link to it there, Saduki, to the CONDG meetup. And this is where I intend to, I'm going to put this on YouTube and then post the link to it to that page. But the way I do this is I'll bring up this highlight tool here. And this is a tool that I can use to create a highlight, which is just, a clip or multiple clips of a presentation. Now, the thing with the way I do Twitch presentations is I've got like this little, and if you're here at the beginning, you've seen this already, but I've got a little countdown at the start to the stream because I want to get the stream kicked off a few minutes before we actually get started to give people a chance to funnel in, give emails a chance to be sent out and say, hey, come check out the stream, all those sorts of things. So I don't want to necessarily publish that part on YouTube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip ahead to probably 6 o'clock. If I can, and I've got the little timer on my video, so that helps me do that. So there I am. So I just want to let that run a little bit here. 14, let's try that one. So I've got about 30 seconds. This is not as powerful an editing tool as something like Camtasia. Or Adobe Premiere or whatever, but it's fine. It's good enough for this sort of task. Okay, so you can see it starts at 6 p.m. and I've got 6 o'clock almost there on the screen. And I just want to make sure I hit pause once my big old head comes on the screen. There it is. And I'm going to make that the starting point. Okay, easy enough. Now I'm going to go towards the end here. And this is where I have Rocky on the screen to ask some questions. I do some giveaways. Okay. And basically, what I do to end out the stream, nothing beats Windows Movie Maker. Get that Windows ME Edition box out of your closet. Movie Maker, I used it for probably a 3-month window back in the day. So what I do at the end of the stream is, there's some trivia. So I want to just kind of, there's just a little bit of brief discussion afterwards, but when the trivia comes on, that's when I'm going to cut it. That'll be the end of the video. So really simple edit, just start point and end point, and get sort of the filler out of the beginning and the end, and that'll be it. So I'll just keep blabbing. Yeah, right, not even get. Right?
Yeah, there's me blabbing. Blah, 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 blah.
This is kind of meta, like it's me up front and then me behind me blabbing. This is wild. Okay, Matt, shut up already. Let's go. All right. Well, thank you very much. Okay, I'm saying thank you. So I'm trying to wrap things up. Yep, we talked about O'Calvin's. Yep. Next time, maybe we'll have Calvin back on. Yeah, hopefully Calvin will be back for the next meeting. Hope things are going okay with you, Calvin, if you're watching. Hope things are good, Calvin. My face is kind of bright. Okay, there we go. So that's where I'll put the other edit, and that's it. So that's the highlights, and that's it. I'm just going to publish that, and there we go. So here's where I publish the highlights. I'm going to take out the word highlight from that. And this takes some time for this to actually happen. So I'm going to put that in the background. We're not going to sit here and wait for that to happen. I'm just going to let it run for a while. And then I'll revisit this when we are, so right now we are processing highlight. So the first step was to edit, start and end segments out. Process the highlight. The next step would be to what's it called? Publish. Well, I guess save the highlight and then publish to YouTube. And then I've got to go through and then find time codes. So like the beginning of the video is when I'm just sort of like small talk, and then at some point I start the intro slide. So I want to identify that point in the video. And then there's a point after the slides where I hand it over to Rocky. So I want to identify that point in the video. I'm guessing most people are going to want to skip ahead to that. And then when Rocky's done, I'm going to put another time code in that, and that should be it. Then I'm going to put those in the YouTube video description. So find time codes, and then I'm going to make sure I have the, edit the YouTube title, description, tags, and so on. I'm going to publish, well, not publish, but I also want to get Rocky's GitHub/slides, if available, if applicable. I know he has the GitHub repo somewhere, but I want to link to that. Edit the YouTube description and titles, so this will have the time codes, the title and abstract, the links to GitHub, slides, and Meetup. And then I want to leave a comment on Meetup with a link to slides, GitHub, and YouTube. So I have them both ways. Oh, look, it's done already. That was faster than normal, so I'm going to save that change. Terrific. That was very much faster than normal. Okay, so at this point I'm going to export, and I'm going to leave it private for now because it's not done. So I'll start that export. Now that takes a little bit of time to do. So we've got that done. So I'm going to sort of check these off. See the highlight published to YouTube. Okay. So once it's on YouTube, that's where I'll go and find those time codes. And I'll actually get an email from Twitch saying, hey, your video was published successfully. Wait a second here. I got a follow from Sudoku, but no fanfare, because I turned off all the fanfare. I forgot all about this. I'm so sorry, Sudoku. You're supposed to get all kinds of stuff happening on the screen when you follow. And you didn't get that, because I had it turned off because of this conduct presentation. Sorry about that. There we go. Now the bot's running. Now the fanfares come on. But thank you very much for that follow, Sudoku. I totally missed that because I had all the stuff turned off. But thank you. Some other people followed all annuals 3N, Quoon, CSLA Net, which I think is Rocky, Tommy 412, Charlie Otti, Mr. Online 27, Useless X, and those are all follows, I think, from the conduct stream. Yeah, it's supposed to show a little graphic and everything. So sorry about that. I wish there was a way for me to re-trigger it, just to get it displayed. But anyway, thank you for the follow. I don't want you to think that I was ignoring or didn't appreciate that follow. Okay, checking my email right now. Just keep that up on the screen over there to see if anything comes in from Twitch. In the meantime, let's get some Code PaLOusa going. So this is an outline I have, a text outline of the presentation. Right, that's his GitHub, but I want to link specifically to the repo he was talking about. And it was related to CSLA.NET, but it was like an examples project, I think. I'm not 100% sure. It's in the presentation, but I want to link to that repo specifically. So we'll get there. So this is the outline that I created, which I don't know if I want to follow this exactly, but this is kind of, I want to start with some goals. I may not list these in the presentation. This is maybe just for me. But what is a microservice? Why a microservice? Those are kind of questions. Microservices are still relatively new, I guess. Some people, this is a intro session. Maybe they don't know what a microservice is yet, or what's all the fuss about microservices. So I want to spend a little bit of time, maybe a slide for each of these questions about what they are and why I would want to build one, or why I wouldn't want to build one. And then I'm going to talk about how to build it. So basically, my microservice is going to be super simple. It's going to be a website. It's going to be a database. And then, of course, the important thing about microservices is scaling. So I don't know if that's really factors into the building microservice part. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. So then building it, and I'll be building it probably with Docker Compose locally. Deploying it would be actually deploying it now to a Kubernetes cluster. So we've built a Docker image or two or whatever, some number of images, and we're going to deploy that. So deploying it will probably be, let's see, we're going to deploy website, database, and website, and the load balancer, and the database. And we're going to scale it. So how do we scale the website? Again, scale the website, scale the database. How do we do those things? And I think that's a pretty good outline of what to cover there. Now, what I'm not going to cover is a bunch of other stuff like Istio and Dapr and sidecars, open tracing. These are really important things I might mention. I'm not going to cover. Not cover, but may mention. Open tracing is something important when you have a lot of microservices, especially. And I'm not going to consider this a full intro to Docker and Kubernetes. Just kind of enough to get started, I guess. For one, I'm not really much of an expert on Kubernetes, especially, and Docker. I've been using it for a lot, but I don't do anything super complicated with it, generally speaking. So I don't feel like I could do them justice to call this a Docker Kubernetes session. So I want to focus on, those are the tools I'm going to use. Microservices do not have to. You don't have to use containers, Docker, Kubernetes, any of those things to have a microservices architecture. Now, they can be very, very helpful, especially when it comes to scaling and deployment and orchestration. Deploy / maybe orchestrate might be a better word. I'm not going to cover CI/CD, like GitHub Actions, for instance. Again, this can be very, very helpful to help you more rapidly deploy. I'm not going to cover that in detail, but I may mention it. Okay, so what's a microservices? So I made some notes myself about what I want to talk about in that slide. Why microservices? This is actually going to be more than one slide. So I think that's probably important. I think a lot of people are interested in why or why not microservices. Because it's one of those buzzwords where people have very, I don't know, people can be very outspoken and say like microservices are stupid, or alternatively, microservices are the only way to go. I think both those opinions, those are like tweets, right? And a tweet can only have so much nuance in it, right? And people are just trying to be funny and get attention on Twitter, and they're not necessarily trying to convey, the reality of situations. So I wanted, since I have the ability, I'm not just tweeting. I want to take some time and go over some of the reasons I think why microservices could be valuable for a project or organizations. Microservices versus monolith services. Is there a name for in between? There is a name for something in between, but it's a bit of a negative connotation. Something called a microlith, which I think I may mention as well. Let's see. I don't know if I do mention that. Maybe I can mention microlith. It's something I do in another presentation of mine. But microlith is like the worst of both worlds. But I mean, if there's something in between that might be better, that might be a good version of a microlith, I don't really think so. As I think if you have a good something that's good in between, you basically you do have microservices, right? So if you start out with a monolith and you refactor a part of it to a microservice, you've got a microservices system. Now, it may not be the end result that you want. It's just a step in the direction. But, I mean, that's what you've got. So I don't know if I want to cover this. Maybe cover briefly some of the pitfalls. If you're just introducing HTTP, but not not handling the problems this introduces, then that's going to be a major issue. TBD Gamer, we keep finding problems with our directions, so we make new directions until there are problems with that direction. So that process, I believe, is called trial and error, which is totally fine. That's okay. That's one way to go about it. So this is the point I'm making about microservices. Doesn't necessarily mean containers or Kubernetes or even cloud or serverless. These are all things that can exist in a microservice project. Oh, I thought that was called software development. Well, same thing. Software development, trial and error, same sort of thing. But I mean, actually, what I like to do, one of the things I like about presenting at conferences and writing content for people is, I am far from an expert, right? I trial and error all day, all the time, right? But every once in a while, I go to a session and someone's presenting some technical topic and I've never heard about it, or I don't know much about it, or maybe it's completely just out of the blue and some little tidbit comes up where I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that. And so it saves me the trouble of having to go through trial and error, trying to figure that out, because they've already gone through the pain for it. So I'm not saying going to a conference is going to eliminate all your trial and error and all your pain, but every once in a while there's a little bit of gold nugget in a presentation where it's just like, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I need. I remember, this is a long time ago, and Saduki, you might remember this. I don't know if you went to these or not. Well, because you're in Cleveland area, so you may not have gone to these. But the Central Ohio Day of .NET, it was a sort of a joint conference from the Columbus, Cincinnati, and Dayton user groups, and they all put together Kadadin. Yeah, maybe you did go to those, Saduki. I don't remember. There was a lot of them. They won't put them on anymore, but I organized a couple of them, and then they were put on by like Jim Holmes and Mike Wood back in the day. Really great stuff. But at the time, one of the first Kadadins I went to, Blankenberg, I think, was involved in some of them. Yes, it was good stuff. But anyway, at the time I was working a consultant job. I was consulting, and it was just a terrible project we were working on. But we had this issue where basically we were required to use some service that the CTO or the CIO of this organization had built which the red flag right there. But he had built this sort of like homegrown cloud provider, kind of private cloud. It was really, really weird. But he had built that, and we were required to use it. And the thing worked literally about half the time. Like it was literally a coin flip if it worked or not. So we had to work around that. We had to write some code that would, okay, if this doesn't work, then retry it, and it'll probably work. And if that doesn't work, retry it again. And log that when it happens so we can keep track of how many times this thing's actually failing. We ended up writing the same code over and over again, the same retry code over and over everywhere in our different repositories and such. And we had written some helpers and some things. AJ 2017, what's going on? I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. We'd written some code, some wrappers to help us with that, but it was still just kind of a hack because we had to remember to use the wrapper. And the rest of the team had to remember to use the wrapper. And if they didn't use the wrapper, well, that part of the system would break half the time. So I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be great if there was something like an attribute we could put on or just like broadcast to the whole namespace, for instance, that every method in here gets wrapped in retries. And I was like, man, I wish there was a way to do this. And I posted on Stack Overflow, and no one really had any good solutions there at the time. This was like 2008, 2009, by the way. So then I went to Katahdin, and I went to a session, and I think it was Michael Kramer. It might have been a dual presentation. No, I think it was just Michael Kramer. Michael Kramer was there. He was presenting on this tool called PostSharp, which was aspect-oriented programming. I had no idea what that was. But I knew Michael Kramer. I knew he was a cool guy, and I wanted to go check out his session. So I did. And guess what he presented? The exact thing that I wanted to solve that problem at the project I was working on. Aspect-oriented programming, cross-cutting concerns, stuff that you're reusing everywhere. You can write it once and apply it across a whole namespace or something. So it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now, the problem was that tool, they didn't really want us to adopt that tool there because it was a broken organization and things, but I did a proof of concept, and I said, hey, this will work, and nope, we're not going to use that. Oh. But then I went to the next place I was employed. We had a similar issue. I said, okay, let's use PostSharp, and they said yes. So that's one of those situations where just going to a conference and just being there and just the fortuitousness, the serendipity of it, helped me solve a problem. So I don't know how I got on this tangent in the first place, but eventually I wrote a book about it, and a website and all these kinds of things. So that's where it all started. Was just one little golden nugget in a session. That's all it took. The whole conference. It's that one little session, like 10 minutes, where I was like, this is perfect. Anywho, so that's kind of my goal, is to give people that one little golden nugget. They can say, oh, okay, wow, I didn't realize it was that easy. I'll just do that. And if I can do that, then I can help people avoid some trial and error in their lives, which is always nice. So that's why we got started, because TBD Gamer brought up the whole trial and error thing. So why microservices? This is maybe like one slide here, and this is like a one slide here, the why and why not. Might be worth it. So build a microservice. So I've got, I've got a simple ASP.NET Core app, endpoint receives a piece of data, endpoint creates. So maybe I'll show some code right there in the slides. I think it might be okay. Data. So then I want to talk about the database per microservice pattern, what that means. And I might reference microservices.io for that. And I'll talk about spinning up a database locally, which leads me into Docker Compose, which again is not required, but it's a helpful way to kind of help anyone on the team to get started working on the service. And so I'll be showing that. It's kind of a local build tool, or local deploy orchestration tool, I guess. And I'm building with Docker Compose because I plan to use Kubernetes later. So I'm going to build a Docker image anyway. There's other tools, so like scripts or Vagrant, Terraform, things like that. Totally fine. Nothing wrong with those. Or you can just do it manually. If you want to start manually, that's totally fine as well. Containerization helps with the works on my machine problem. Yep, that's sort of well documented. Okay, so then I will kind of show, I don't know, maybe a demo of the local service in action. kind of how that works, and just spin it up and show it running against a database, and there we go. Okay, next is deploying. So I'm going to talk about, this might be a good time to mention CI/CD, but I'm not going to cover this. But maybe GitHub Actions to automatically build images and put them into a container registry. CI/CD is a rabbit hole. Absolutely, it is. And I'm writing some blog posts about integration testing and CI/CD, but I don't want to cover that too much in this session. I maybe also want to mention container registry. I'm using Docker Hub, so it's all public. You may want to use a different container registry. Use a private container registry or whatever. CI/CD is easily a talk or two in and of itself. I mean, there's CI/CD. You could have whole conferences about CI/CD. So, yes, absolutely. But I just want to mention briefly that that's not something you should skip. It's something you should definitely think about doing. Hopefully, there's other sessions at Code PaLOusa that talk about CI/CD, GitHub Actions, that sort of thing. I don't know for sure. I haven't looked at the whole schedule. But yeah, maybe I can maybe plug another Code PaLOusa session on this topic, if there is one. Why don't we just take a quick check? See what's on the Code PaLOusa schedule. CodePaLOusa.com. So let's see, schedule, speakers, let's do schedule. So maybe you just want to search for GitHub Actions or CI/CD. Continuous, integration, okay. Not seeing anything on Wednesday. What about here? Integration, CI/CD. Oh, here's one, CI/CD, DevOps machine learning. Maybe. What about GitHub Actions? Nothing like that there. So Friday, same day as me. Probably the same time as my session. Wouldn't that be the case? CI/CD, sustainable accessibility, integration, accessibility. See, this is what I'm talking about. You could have a whole conference about CI/CD. This one is about accessibility checks in CI/CD pipeline, that's cool. That's a cool idea, but not really related to what I'm talking. I mean, that's a more of, okay, you've got CI/CD set up. Here's how you add here's how you add accessibility checks into it, which is very cool. DevOps machine learning in one session. Where was that one? DevOps and machine learning by Henk Bowman. Machine learning, easily deploy ML experiments with integrated CI/CD tooling. Yeah, that makes sense. So you're going to create some experiments and you're going to deploy them with CI/CD. This is Azure Machine Learning and DevOps. So I don't know. I guess that makes sense. But I'm not seeing anything about GitHub Actions or even like Jenkins or TeamCity, anything like that here. So unfortunately, nothing to plug at Code PaLOusa. So, and I don't know if my blog post will be out by then, but maybe plug my blog posts if they're out by then. But they probably won't be. Okay. So then we're going to talk about Kubernetes, maybe an intro to what it is, how it works. I mean, it's just a simple, like a 10-cent over YAML files that declare your architecture, basically. I don't know if architecture is the right word, but declare your that declaratively define all the pieces of your system. I guess an orchestrator is what it's called. There are others, but Kubernetes is pretty dominant, that sort of thing. Okay, I'm going to use AKS on Azure, so AKS is Azure's Kubernetes provider, basically. Oh, this is, yeah. So, okay, I've got this whole thing with, I was talking about pods and DNS. So I don't know. So you define a resource. Kubernetes will create pods, which are basically containers. Is that the right word? Containers? It's kind of like a container for the resource. I like that the online thing is making conference prices accessible. I mean, this is something I've mentioned multiple times, but as cloudy as this year is, and it is cloudy, don't get me wrong, this is perhaps the cloudiest year in my own memory. There are some silver linings. You really got to look for them, and they're really thin. But online conferences have some benefits as opposed to in person. You don't have to travel there. So if traveling is too expensive or just not feasible, then that's okay. You can just bring it up on your computer and check it out. Pricing is also a thing. So many of them have because they don't have to pay for catering and coffee and things like that, they can make them much less expensive. Which is kind of a two-edged thing because more people can attend. Great. So you can collect more for them, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. To offset expenses. But you can charge less. So yeah, no food. Yeah, Taylor and Code is the one of the organizers the head organizer, I guess, of Code PaLOusa. So no food and beverage, so the cost to run goes down a lot. Those are huge costs of in-person conferences. I don't know if Code PaLOusa's ever done this, but CodeMash used to, or they might still do, show a breakdown of the costs at the last day. That say here's what all we spent your money on, and food and beverages, especially like those free sodas and coffee and like in the hallways and stuff. Unbelievable how much those things cost. But behind all that food and beverage and coffee, there's lots of people working to roll those out and make the coffee and clean everything and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it costs money. But yeah, there's no food and beverages to a virtual conference. At least no one's figured out how to do that. I guess if they shipped everybody 3D food printers or something, I don't know. $50 to $75 a gallon for coffee. And that's not because it's really expensive coffee, all right? Sometimes it's really, really bad. Sometimes it's barely passable. Sometimes it's really good. But that's mostly labor there, right? To roll, and all the equipment and upkeep and repairs and all the stuff on those urns and everything like that. So yeah, that can get pricey. Okay. So yeah, that is one of the nice things. Now, personally, I got into conferences and community events and things because I wanted to meet with people in person because I was working remotely, and I wanted to figure out a way to get that same kind of interaction. So I'm a bit of a skeptic when it comes to virtual conferences, and I don't. I'm not a huge fan of them. But right now, that's kind of what we have to do, right? It's either that or nothing. So I'd rather have that than nothing. So that's why I really appreciate like Taylor and Code, Chad Green, making a really serious effort to make Code PaLOusa as good as it can be, even though it's a virtual only, and other people like NDC Oslo. NDC has done a good job of trying to make a really good effort of trying to simulate the experience as much as possible. I don't think we'll ever really get there. Maybe in VR it's a possibility, but I don't think we'll ever get there. But people like Chad Green and others are making really solid efforts and working super hard to make these good. So that's why I think you should sign up for Code PaLOusa, which I will plug again right there in the chat, CodePaLOusa.com. Definitely go and sign up for that. Let's see. TBD Gamer, $150 for a 3-day conference. I'm considering signing up for it out of pocket. That's the other thing. These are community-run conferences. These are run by volunteers. Chad Green is not making a fortune, if he's even making anything, on Code PaLOusa. Again, back to CodeMash. They show their money on the screen, and if they're lucky, they'll break even on these conferences. So they're already inexpensive to begin with. So CodeMash I have paid for out of pocket to go and attend because it's definitely worth it. Code PaLOusa, I don't think I've ever had to pay out of pocket, but it definitely would be on my top 3 or 4 list of yes, I would pay for these out of pockets. Taylor and Co. Generally, we do not break even. Again, you don't have to share any of this stuff if you don't want to, Chad. I'm just sort of sharing my own experiences from what I've seen from other conferences. So don't feel any pressure to put that stuff out there. But I assumed as much. These aren't conferences like reInvent or Oracle Open World or something where they probably are making a little bit of money on them. One way or the other. But even those conferences like OzCon and DockerCon and KubeCon, these are huge conferences. They're very expensive and very, very large. And even then, I don't think they make very much money on them. Conference organizing isn't for the faint of heart. No, and it's not for you're not going to make a ton of money on it. Unless you're the hotel or the conference center, then you're probably going to make a little bit of money. Yes, I have organized and helped organize a handful of conferences, and it is tough, thankless work, and I've just been a small part of a few. But yeah, it is not. You have to love it to do it. If you don't, then there are many points along the way where you'd just be like, I'm out. This isn't worth it at all. But yeah, yes, it is not. It may look super glamorous, what with the staying up all night and the running around in hotels and trying to corral a bunch of speakers. That may look like living the lifestyle, but it's not. All right. Okay. You define a resource. Kubernetes will create pods. Kubernetes for resource. Well, let me see. So maybe it's a quick, nickel tour of how Kubernetes works. You create a Kubernetes cluster, which is one or more machines. You define resources. Kubernetes will create pods based on those resources. Create pods, services. What's the other thing that they create? Let's see. Kev Griffin. Here's my problem. I've done a couple of virtual events in this pandemic, and it's getting really repetitive. Not like doing physically conference talks where it's a different dynamic each time. So, Kevin Griffin, you're talking about as a presenter. Yeah. So that's the thing is that when you're doing in-person presentations, it's often driven by the keynote in the morning or people's questions during the session, and so that's why I think interaction is super important if you're going to have a live conference. You've got to have some way to encourage people and to allow people to interact with the speaker, which is what I'm doing right now on Twitch. This is what I love about Twitch is this kind of interaction and questions and things. So yes, but on the other hand, Kevin Griffin, a lot of online conferences, maybe not a lot, I don't know, many online conferences, if I could weasel out of that, are just doing what you're saying. They are asking people to create recordings in advance and play them or make them on demand available. I'm not sure. I think that it kind of goes the other direction. It's not so much a conference anymore, right? Because there's very little interaction. So it's more just just a YouTube channel at that point, right? So you miss all the other trappings, the hallway conference, the talking to sponsors, talking to other people who were there, and just the experience of actually being out of your house and being on site somewhere. Those are things that are very difficult, if not impossible, to replicate about in-person conferences. So, I think we're seeing some people try different things this year, and I don't know if anyone's going to get 100% right this year or the next year. All you're saying, have your video play and let you chat with people. So that's another thing is that, okay, here's the premiere of this video, and the presenter will be in the chat room, and he can answer your questions during the presentation. I haven't seen that in action yet. I'd be curious to see if that's effective or not. TBD Gamer, I think a Twitch-like platform with private options would do great now for schools and conferences. We've seen the Live Coders conference here on Twitch, which is a single track, right? And it's not private. They make it free and open to everybody. I think you're onto something there. Maybe Twitch itself could be that platform. I don't know. Interesting to see how it goes. And I, like I said, I have some feelings that virtual conferences will never match an in-person conference. Never. Even the best one won't match 100%. But I think we're going to see, by the time this year is over and maybe into next year, we're going to kind of have a rough idea about what works and what doesn't, and what's the best we can do. I don't know what that is yet, but I think we'll know. Of course, that'll be just in time for everything to be over and we can go back to in-person conferences. That being said, even after in-person conferences are back up and running, and hopefully that's sooner than later, I still think there's lots we can learn from virtual conferences. Like I said, that silver lining there, making the stuff more accessible to people who can't travel or, who can't afford to go to them. So there may be something else we can do. Suzuki, I've done a bunch of pre-recorded sessions for online ones, but the one I'm working on, this last one, is the last one I plan on doing, like a pre-recorded one. And you want to do live from that point on? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Other thing, Kevin Griff, is you say that they get kind of repetitive, and I think that's even true of in-person presentations to some extent. Is that after I've given the same presentation 5 or 6 times, let's say, yes, I keep updating it and improving it, and yes, different questions get asked, but it still does get repetitive. The same beats, the same jokes, the same the same sort of script I follow from. It's not a literal script I'm reading from, but the same kind of script. It does get repetitive, right? I think that's just part of it. But to the people, that's the thing. That's the challenge, is that the people in the audience, they've probably never seen it before, right? I've given it 6, 7, 10 times, and my challenge is now, I have to be just as enthusiastic and just as engaged the 11th time as I did the first time. Let's see, what do we got? TBD Gamer, I've never spoken or presented anything on development outside of my company. I was planning my first one for a company meeting right as COVID hit. That's a good place to start, is within your company or even your local user group. Sometimes we'll have opportunities for lightning talks where you can just get up in front of a group for 10 minutes, try it out, and you can learn from it. Taylor and Code, I think it will be a hybrid model once in-person conferences come back. Yeah, I think that might be a benefit of this, because even after we can come back to in-person conferences, there'll still be some people, I'm sure, who are maybe giving a second thought. Do I need to be out in a huge group of people? Especially if I have, certain conditions, and something else might happen, right? So a hybrid model might be a good idea, and it could benefit a lot of people. I'm hilarious. The jokes do not get old, says one Kevin Griff. I don't know about that, buddy. But that's like, even when I write jokes, and I write terrible jokes, but I'll present a joke to one room and it'll be like laughs, and another room and it'll be like one guy in the back going, It just depends on the time of day. Have people had their coffee yet? What kind of people are at this conference? Things like that. If your conference is pre-recorded, I won't submit for it. I prefer live engagement, virtual or in person. Fair enough. I think that's, as a speaker, that's a good thing to know about yourself. Like, is it just not worth it for me to get in person? I don't see any value there. I only want to do virtual, or I don't want to do live engagement. Working on accessibility. Really enjoying this conversation, but I have to go to a meeting, interview for a speaker. Okay, cool. Everyone, you need to check out Taylor and Code. Give him a follow. This is Chad Green, his Twitch channel. Bang unfollow. What is that all about? Because your jokes aren't hilarious? Sorry, there is no bang unfollow command. there's only a, was it laugh? We'll laugh at you, Kevin Griffin. There we go. We'll laugh at your jokes. I'll gladly promote the pre-recorded CFPs to get the word out. They just aren't for me. Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough, Sudoku. Okay, so quick nickel tour of how Kubernetes works. You create a Kubernetes cluster, one or more machines. Sure. Nodes. I don't know. You define resources. These are YAML files, basically. Kubernetes will then look at the YAML and look at the YAML, then creates pods, services. Well, let's just say pod services or something else. What else does it create? Pod services, deployments, etc. There's a bunch of things based on those based on those, I guess. Okay, and then Kubernetes will it also has its own zone DNS, so it can locate resources based on the names defined in the YAML. And you can, what else? That's really it, I guess. And you can, I guess scaling is the big thing to talk about maybe. There, you can just set number of what do they call them? They call them nodes? It's update number of nodes. And YAML Kubernetes will create the corresponding pods, corresponding pods. I don't know, maybe corresponding stuff. It's not always pods. I think that's probably good enough. I guess auto repair, maybe auto repair, restart, that sort of thing. I don't know. And there's lots of other stuff you can do. I don't want to get into it that much, like managing secrets and those sorts of things. Okay. So then AKS, maybe I can just talk about, I can segue this into Kubernetes files themselves. So I'm going to talk about the ASP.NET Service YAML, load balancer YAML, the database YAML. Just show those YAML files up there. And I'll talk about maybe the operator pattern for the database or other stateful applications. Those operator patterns important there. I'm not going to talk about Helm in this session. Maybe I'll put that up there as well. I'm not going to cover Helm. I mean, again, that's just a whole other thing we could talk about. Okay, then I'll show the files, say, okay, I'm going to use AKS for this demonstration. AKS is Azure's Kubernetes provider, but you don't have to use Azure. You can use Google Cloud Platform, is that what it's called? GCP? Well, no, it's not GCP. It's called what is it called? What's Google's Kubernetes provider? GCP Kubernetes. It's called GKE. You can use Google GKE, Amazon EKS, Oracle OCI, etc. Talk about database deployment. Volumes. I'm not going to cover volumes, but I'm going to talk about automation, especially with clustered databases. I guess I can manage volumes, backups, upgrades, etc. Declare operator pattern. Gives declarativity. Is that a word? Allows you to configure databases declaratively. Sure. Database outside of Kubernetes is perfectly acceptable, DBAS or whatever else. You don't have to use Kubernetes again. but it does give you the benefits of scaling. Kubernetes does provide benefits of scaling, keep orchestration in one place, and it also provides, what was the last thing? Scaling, orchestration, one place. Oh, declarativity. This is going to word I'm going to coin. Declarativity. Is that a word? Declarativity. Declarability, maybe, is what I'm looking for. What does declarativity mean? The condition of being declarative. Sure. Let's go with that. Declarability? I don't know. I like declarativity. Okay. Scaling a microservice. Okay. Load balancer. So those are the things I'm going to talk about scaling. Scale each, I don't know, resource, I guess. You can define scaling in each resource. So load balancer, it doesn't really give us anything for local dev, but it's important for deployment. Yes, production deployment. In production, the load balancer will balance the load. I don't know how else to really convey this. We'll balance the load evenly amongst all the instances of your services. Services increase the number of nodes by changing a number. So you can monitor, and I'm not going to talk about monitoring either. You can monitor the CPU RAM load of your nodes. You can automatically increase. You can do auto scaling with Kubernetes, or just manually change a number in YAML. And you can just bump it up from 2 nodes to 3 nodes, for instance. Data. Again, you can do the same thing, increase the number of nodes. If for a distributed database, this may be challenging to do with the plain Kubernetes API. Operator pattern allows you to more easily configure and scale. Oh, I mentioned auto scaling down here. I'm going to cut that part out. Okay. So is there anything else I need to cover there? I guess we can have a wrap up, So more things to start learning. So basically all these things up here covered. Resources, so like Microservices.io. Is that the website? Microservices.io has all kinds of interesting microservice patterns and information. I think this is it. Is this the one? Patterns, yeah. So patterns. I'm not really a big fan of this website, but there's lots of good information here. Database per service. That's what I'm looking for. Is that what I called it here? Database per service? Database per microservice. They call it database per service pattern. That's fine. Just want to make sure I'm using the same language there. I don't want your newsletter. Okay. Patterns. So maybe I like this. See, this is interesting. This whole graphic here, but I'd rather just get a list of it. I can see this list over here. How to apply the patterns. Look at all this stuff. Good gravy. But I guess we'll just go there. So maybe I will put that link in there. And again, my blog posts, if new ones especially. I've got some other posts about this, but those in there. What else? Oh, let's see. I'm going to take a quick break here because my Twitch export succeeded. So let's go back to CONDG, and video is still being processed. So I got to wait for that to actually finish processing before I can skip through it and find the different time codes. Let me undo that. What time is it? 11:10. Something time sensitive? What is this? Oh, this is okay. It's it's a really panicky subject line, but it's about something that's not that important. Okay. All right. Love that. Like, please read. Time sensitive. Urgent. And it's about some trivial nonsense. Okay. All right. Archive those. Anything else in email? Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, so this is my outline, and I think I'm ready to start building some slides. So let me bring up my presentations. This is how I organize my presentations, by the way. Also, Dookie says, once you send the email, do you message them on Teams, Slack, other platform to make sure they saw your email? Right. So there is actually, and I hope he doesn't mind me calling him out on this. If he's watching, sorry. My boss is the worst when it comes to emails. And you know, maybe this is a boss thing, because I had a boss, my first job, who was just as bad. But if you ever see like his inbox, it's like 50,000 unread emails, right? It's one of those types of situations. So unless you contact him on Slack or some other way, he may not ever get to the email. Which, you know, is something I know and helpful for me, because if I want to contact him, I won't send the email. I'll just go right to Slack or whatever, or start a Zoom call. You feel judged with the unread email message count? No, but the thing is, as long as, you know, you're communicating this to your team, Sudoku, that's fine. If they know that sending you an email is not going to get through to you, or is unlikely to get through to you, then that's as long as they know, that's fine. But the problem is when other people outside our team try to contact him and they CC me, well, I'll get that email. I have a very organized email system, by the way. I will get to the email. So I have to let them know that, hey, you're going to have to ping them on Slack, or I will ping them on Slack for you, that sort of thing. But speaking of, let's go on to a little tangent here. The Scott Hanselman email Outlook rules system. What is it called? What did he call this one? The 3 most important Outlook rules. This is how I roll. I started doing this when I started working with Couchbase, because I figured it was a clean slate, time to start with a new email system. This is by far, I think, what everyone should start with. This is how you should start organizing your email. And the main thing here is you divide your email into emails that are to you, where you are in the to line, emails that where you are CC'd. I've never gotten the email external thing to work, but it hasn't really been a problem. And then invites, okay? So what you see here now is, in your inbox, they're all emails that where the to line Matthew Groves is. So someone's trying to email something to me specifically, where I'm in the to line. CCs is where I'm just sort of like copied. I'm just like, oh, this is FYI for you. You're not super important on this email thread. It's just, sorry, I should have put the email in there, or the URL in there. I'm just CC'd, and it's not the most important email for you to read. I might get to them eventually, but I assume if I'm CC'd on the email, it's not super important for me to read that one right away. Like I said, I can never get external to work for some reason. And invites are important because someone's actually inviting me to a meeting. So I want the invites to be kind of separate out from the inbox, because those are things I need to respond to right away. And by the way, I do not make any bones about declining or tentative an email or an invite. I'm not going to accept every old invite you send my way. I want to see that you've put it and you've respected my time zone. Other meetings that I have in place may take precedence. So So I will decline an invite if it doesn't have, if it's not a meeting that I think is going to be very productive. I will straight up decline it. But anyway, this is a system that I found to be very, very useful, because now I can know right away, well, if it's just a CC'd email, then I'll get to it eventually. I don't care about it right now. Yeah, exactly, Code PaLOusa. If we don't protect our time, no one will. Yeah, that is a very good point. I love that. That's a great quote. Is that something is that a quote from someone, is it a famous quote or something? I love it. If it's not, then I'm going to attribute it to you right now. And thanks for joining us, by the way, Code PaLOusa. I love it. Yes. So, and this is another way of protecting my time, because if it's a bunch of emails, it's like this huge email thread where I'm just sort of CC'd, but not, my relevance to the discussion ended a long time ago. It's in the CC box, and I might get to it eventually and clean it up. And I've got a few other rules, by the way, that, if it's like a forum post, I get notified about forums. So I divide those into subfolders like .NET Forum, a .NET Mobile Forum, because to me, not every message in the forum is something I can help with. But if it's a .NET related message, I want to know about it. I want to read it. I want to see what the question was, what the solution was. Try to help the solution. Maybe help provide a solution. Things like that. So that's another sort of way I monitor it. And I'm not going to show you my Outlook because there's some sensitive stuff in there. But that's basically what I've got here. And I've never got the external thing to work. This would be, I think, even more helpful, because I get emails from externals. And for me, an email from external might be super important. If it's a community member contacting me saying, hey, there's a problem with the developer portal, or hey, I have a project I'd love for you to come and help team out with something with Couchbase. That is a super important email to me. And so someone from outside of Couchbase emails me. I want to know. I want to get them identified. Yeah, congrats on the MVP there, Sean. Welcome to the club. I wish we had the full-blown MVP summit. We were just talking about virtual events, but I wish we had the full MVP summit for you to come out and hang with us at the MVP summit. It's a great event. I've hung out with Sudoku a few times at the last couple MVP summits, I think. So usually there's like a contingent of like Ohio people in the same area in the big room. We all sort of hang out together. I wonder if a better quote would be, if we don't respect our own time, no one will. I like to protect our time better than respect our time. I like to protect. Elite company I am in. Yeah, TBD Gamer, you're surrounded by MVPs. I think you're still an MVP, right, Sudoku? Yes, we are the elites. We're the cream of the crop here. All right. No, I mean, whatever code, Sean. If you like, whatever you like better, go with it. It's your quote, man. But I like the protect our time. Yes, thank you. I did the MVP renewal. I did the MVP unboxing last stream. Lunch appointments. This is the weird thing, Sudoku. I don't know if everyone's like this, because it seems like people at my company aren't like this at all. But to me, a lunchtime is a very important piece of my day. It's a day where I've been working all morning. I've been streaming all morning in this case. I need to just take a break and have some lunch and actually eat food. And in my case, hang out with my family because I work from home, which is very cool. So I do the same thing. I have a lunch appointment on Outlook, a private lunch block, which frequently gets stepped on, but it's there anyway. If people are looking at the calendar and they're seeing, hey, can I schedule something at this time slot? They may be a different time zone. They may not know that I'm having lunch. So, that's blocked off. So I will schedule it earlier or later. If it's important and we can't schedule any other time, all right. I'll have a later lunch today. That's fine. You also booked 4:30 to 5 to wind down for the day. Don't get hit by a bus with commits. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I think especially, I do that every once in a while. I do that like on an ad hoc basis, because a lot of my company is on West Coast time, and if I'm not careful, most people have learned to deal with this, because if they send me an invite for 6 p.m. Eastern time or later, it's going to get declined. But every once in a while, I'll set up a block where, like, look, I know I've got to be out of the office, so I'll set up a block of time, like, so no one sends me any sort of meeting invites at that kind of time. And unfortunately, I think there's a team member of mine who's in Europe, and he's an amazing guy. He's just absolutely terrific. But he, much to my protests, will often accept meeting invites after, his day has wound down out there. But I mean, I've told him, you don't have to do that, man. You don't have to be here for this meeting. But he'll do it anyway. That's just the way he rolls. So that's up to him though to protect his own time, right? I'm in a position where I can tell my boss when I'm going to be gone, doctor visits, etc. I don't ask anymore. Yeah, I think it's still probably courteous to bring it up and to say, hey, I'm going to have to be a dentist appointment or whatever next week, things like that, and put that on my calendar, right? But I'm also in a position where, my very first job, we had to request basically every hour of our time off. If we wanted paid time off, we had to request it. We had a bank and vacation time, things like that, sick time, vacation time. I'm in a position right now where Couchbase has what's called discretionary time off policy, where we don't accrue vacation hours or sick hours, things like that. We, as long as our team and my boss and everything's okay with it, I can pretty much take off whatever. Now again, you don't get crazy with it, right, and be responsible and get your work done. But yes, if I need to take a Friday afternoon off just because I'm burned out or because there's a baseball tournament or something for my son, no problem. And that is one of the things I tell anybody that ever approaches me from a recruiting standpoint. Like, it's going to be hard for you to get me out of Couchbase because they're just so good to me when it comes to my time. Now, the meeting stuff, there's improvement to be done there, but when it comes to personal time off, I have never had a struggle with Couchbase. And the opposite is true as well, by the way. When I'm working in-person conferences, sometimes it spills over into weekends, Saturdays, Sundays. Sometimes it spills into the evenings. I may spend, and I have done this, 12 hours straight at a booth, like Amazon summits, AWS summits. I spent 12 hours straight at the booth. Well, not straight. I'd take maybe a half hour for lunch and little breaks here and there. But yeah, I will absolutely work, twice a work day, weekends, things like that. And if I'm especially tired from that, I'll take a Monday off. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I knew that going in to this job, that I'd be working events and in person and, have to go around those schedules sometimes. And some conferences are on weekends. And SQL Saturdays, for instance, they're always on Saturday. So if I'm going to a SQL Saturday, I'm basically working a Saturday. That's fine. That's fine with me. No problem. Let's see. When necessary, I work weekends and holidays. Yeah, holidays, depending on the holiday, I absolutely will not work on a Christmas, for instance, or a Thanksgiving, or an Easter. But if it's something else, other holiday that comes up and I need to be around for something, we can talk. We can talk about that. There are times when I do some work on weekends and holidays, but I'm cautious not to overdo it. Burnout is real, and I'd rather avoid that, especially with an employer and a client that I really like. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's one of the things I really like about this company, this Couchbase company. So if you're looking, by the way, for a new position, everything's remote right now, obviously. I don't even know if anyone has, I assume cleaning crews and stuff, maintenance, are in our office buildings. But other than that, I don't think anyone actually is working in an office. So, if you're interested, it sounds like you two are both happily employed, but if you know anybody else, lots of positions that are open, and some of these, have cities associated with them. Kind of want you to, in sales, be in a specific area, but some of them are engineering positions that could absolutely be done remotely, even though they have cities next to them here. So send them that way if they're looking for something. Or Azure Architect. I don't. That would probably be on the cloud team. Looks like they have some engineers and stuff. So here's one, remote engineer. I don't know if this. Yeah, there you go. So our new Couchbase cloud offering currently runs on just AWS, but Azure is in the works, and Google Cloud Platform's in the works. And so, yes, yes, this isn't called Azure Architect, but it is certainly something where you'll be working with a lot of Azure. Yeah, absolutely. And test engineering, technical writer, all kinds of stuff for the cloud if you're interested in that. So we don't call it Azure because it's not just Azure here. We tend to work with all the big cloud providers. But yeah, absolutely. Hey, Gamware, thanks for stopping by. You're looking for an open position? Yeah, CodeMonkey. I mean, we don't call it CodeMonkey, but we've got stuff for all languages, really. If you're wanting the core product, there's a lot of stuff in Go, in Java, in C, C++. Even the front end is, I think, running Angular. So if you want to work on that, maybe, I don't know if there are any positions open for that. JavaScript. Hey, Sudoku, thanks for stopping by. Glad you came in, and good to hear from you. Hope things are going well with you. We'll see you later. Yeah, Go for sure. Or maybe this is some Erlang going on as well. She's protecting her time. Yep, absolutely. Got to. Who else is going to do it? I don't know if there's much new Erlang being written, but there is some Erlang code here. Yeah, so especially if you're on the Ohio Valley, we just mentioned Ohio. This is, I think this is for a position that was previously based in Cincinnati, but certainly they've got it opened up for other major cities in the area. So if you're into sales, right, you could do that. Solutions engineers, software engineers, all kinds of great stuff here. So there you go. You're the first to quote me on anything. Thank you. I think I'm going to make that into a highlight clip. I'll make a note for myself. Where is this? I think it's such a great quote. Great highlight clip of Sean's, or you can clip it yourself, I think, but Sean's quote about protecting one's own time. Yep, cool. All right, so we've got about half an hour left. So we took a tangent into Scott Hanselman's rules there, which I love. Let's maybe actually start a PowerPoint file. I know I've been looking through just a text outline, but here's how I organize my presentation. So I've got them by year, and then you can see all the different presenters. So there's me and Dennis. Our new team member hasn't put anything in here yet, but there's me. And then here's all the different sessions that I've given over 2020 so far. Because I create a new slide deck for every single conference for lots of reasons. One, I might need to put in a sponsor slide for specific conferences. I might need to tweak it depending on the event, right? So I like to customize them as I go. So you can see, for instance, I've got like autonomous microservices, and I presented this at the Hampton Road user group. So I created a deck for that, and I basically just copied it, right, and then tweaked it for a presentation I did for Manning later in July. No, yeah, they're not 100% new. No. Absolutely not. Each of these folders represents a distinct set of slides and other assets, but no, right. So if I go back to like 2019, let's see if I can find out one that was a lot. Let's see. No, was it 2018? SQL for JSON. Yes, so 2018. This was a wild year for this particular presentation. SQL, it was called querying NoSQL with SQL. This was a very, very popular presentation. And you can see here, I presented it at least 16 times that year. But then if I order it by date, you can see, okay, well, this is the first one I did. Oh, Tulsa Tech Fest. I think this was actually the first conference I ever presented at as a Couchbase employee, was Tulsa Tech Fest. So this is dated 2018, but this is actually, you can see I've marked it 2016. So I've sort of rolled these up into one folder for some reason. I don't know. But Tulsa Tech Fest, I presented this one there. But every time I did a new version, I would improve it. I'd learn new things. New things would come out, so I'd add those to the slides. And this one, you can see I changed the layout of this one because I knew for Cincy Develop, they have kind of these big rooms, but the screens up front are relatively small for the room size. It's a very unique venue. That's why. A very cool venue. So I changed the layout of that for that particular conference. So I did it by Sandra Johnson. I don't even remember who Sandra Johnson is or why that's edited. But then KCDC and then so on. So you've done the dinner after Tulsa Tech Fest. Yeah, we had went to some restaurant downtown Tulsa. I think it may be where I first met you. I don't know, or maybe it was at the conference. I don't know, something like that. What was that restaurant? We got like a whole room to ourselves. Albert G's Barbecue. Okay, sounds right. I remember walking there from the hotel or the conference center and it being just brutal because it was like August or something in Oklahoma. Something ridiculous. Ooh, it was rough. But yeah, that was cool. And I met some other people there that I still keep in touch with. I can't remember their names right now. Sorry. McNelly's Pub. Sure. Yeah, August heat was the worst. I was walking around Tulsa. It wasn't that far from the hotel, which is why I walked. But it didn't really make sense for me. Why did I close that window? To take an Uber just for that short of a distance. But yeah, it was pretty brutal. There was a donut place there on the way that looked really good. They were closed though. And they had a donut mobile parked out back, which looked just awesome. But they were closed, so I couldn't go in there. All right, so ASP.NET Core Microservices. All right, so this is the folder. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back up to this level, and there is a template that Couchbase Marketing wants us all to use. I don't really have to, but I'm not good with templates and design and stuff, so may as well. Give this a short name like ASP.NET Core Microservices. And this will be Code PaLOUsa, and that'll be August 2020. And I don't think there's anything sensitive in here. Let me just make sure. It's just slides. I don't think there's any sensitive information. Maybe some sensitive URLs, so let's not put those on there. But here we go. Which one of these titles do I like the best? So this is the one I kind of use the most. It's the woman with the sunglasses sticking her head out of a car window. And I've got the surfing guy, and I've got the, I don't know, LA skyline maybe? I don't know what this is. I see palm trees and stuff. Let's go with that one. I'm not really into surfing, and I use this one a lot, so let's go with that one. And it's also just a plain one, so I'm going to go with that one. So we can start by putting a title in here. Now, what did I call it? Get the exact wording right here. Speakers. Oh, well, I guess this will work. There I am. Developing and deploying your first ASP.NET Core microservice to Kubernetes. That's a long title. Whew, that's long. Why did I make such a long title? Developing and deploying your first ASP.NET Core microservice to Kubernetes. Subtitle. Does it really need a subtitle? Is that long already? Okay, and then Matthew D. Groves and developer advocates. And I'm not going to put a date in there because I'll forget to update it. Now, in all these slides, it has this sort of footer here, this confidential and proprietary, because a lot of presentations are internal and or for sort of private groups. So we don't want those. We want those to be confidential and proprietary. They contain information about finances and things like that. So not Notes Master, but for a presentation like Code PaLOusa, I mean, this is not going to show anything confidential and proprietary. So what I don't like to have those in there, so I'm just going to replace them and just blank them all out. Because that kind of seems a little hostile to me, where I'm at your conference and I'm presenting, here's some interesting information for you, but this is all confidential and proprietary. Don't share it with anybody. It's top secret. It's not. This is all stuff that's going to be on GitHub, on blog posts, totally out there in public for people to see. I don't need to make the slides proprietary and confidential. Okay. So we've got, yep, title option 2. I'm not going to use that one. Agenda. If anybody's still hanging around, what do you think about having agenda slides in presentations? Do you find them useful? I kind of go back and forth on that. Okay, and then I've got these section breaks. That one I think looks ugly. This has got more URLs I don't want you to see. I don't think they're a problem because they're going to be authenticated, but we got the stock photo section titles. I could change these photos if I want to, but I generally don't use those. So I just go with the plain section picture. I use them in microservice talk because of how many topics I cover. I won't use it in my Azure networking talk. I don't know. It might be. I think it might be useful to have near the beginning because people will see, oh, is this going to cover what I care about, or not? Make a decision about, do I go to another session? Do I bail out? So I like to have those near the beginning. This is kind of our internal value statement, whatever. Okay, and there's a lot of sample slides in here, blah, 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 and then these can all go. I'm probably not going to use most of these, with the yellow notes especially. Those can all go. You can make it, then remove or hide if not used. Yeah. The yellow ones can all go. I just want to leave the samples in here. These are just notes of how to use PowerPoint, basically. Because this template is made for everybody in the company, not just for people that have never written PowerPoint slides before. So, okay, my thank you. I should bookend it with the palm trees and no appendix. Okay, contact information. Okay, that's fine. Just seems so long. Why did I create such a long title? But I mean, that's literally what I'm covering. So it's an accurate title, I guess. Developing and deploying your first ASP.NET Core microservice to Kubernetes. I guess the to Kubernetes part maybe is, I'm going to use Kubernetes, but I could probably omit that from the title going forward. Because a lot of the same principles can apply whether you're using Kubernetes or not. Just shorten it up. Helps a little bit. I'll leave it in there because that's what I submitted to Code PaLOusa, so that's what I'll use. All right, agenda. My agenda. So, what is all this? Oh, it's just overlapping. Okay, so first item, I don't know, just put goals. I don't think that's what I want, but goals. What's a microservice? Why? I don't know. Why microservices? What are you doing here? What are you doing to me? What's happening? 03. Okay. Build a microservice. Develop, I guess, develop a microservice. And then we're going to deploy a microservice. For deploy microservice. And then scale 05. Scale a microservice. And then summary questions. How's that look for an agenda? The goals part might need to go. But it might be something worth covering at the beginning. Again, just to let people know, here's what I'm going to cover, here's what I'm not going to cover. So if you've already done this before, and you're here to learn about Istio or open tracing or whatever I'm not going to cover, what is it? If you're looking for a Docker intro, Kubernetes intro, looking for CI/CD, Helm, monitoring, I'm not going to cover that stuff. So that might be useful because honestly, there is so much in Kubernetes to learn. It is helpful at the beginning to say, here's what I'm not going to cover. This is meant for people who have never done this before, not for people who have deployed but now are looking to take the next step. So So maybe I just as a note to myself here. Goals, what I will cover, more importantly, what I will not cover. I love to use PowerPoint notes. I probably abuse them, in fact, but this helps keep me on track during a presentation to make sure that I've hit all the points that I plan to, and that I don't spend too much time on an individual slide. Just helps keep me on track. This is the closest thing I have to a script is PowerPoint notes. And sometimes when I'm super nervous or rattled or trying to get back on track, I will use this as a script and just read it and go for it there. So this one, what's a microservice? Maybe I shorten this to microservice what and why? What? How about what? Why? Why not? So yeah, we're going to talk about my brief intro to what a microservice is, why you would want to build one, and again, importantly, why might microservices not be a good fit for your project? It's important to discuss that. That's one of the things that Sean did in his microservice presentation. Did a good job of covering why you wouldn't want to do this or why you might want to avoid this. And really, I think that's the question I think a lot of developers really want answered about any given technology. Is you can talk for days like why it's great and why you want to use it, and what are the benefits of it, but to really understand it, you got to know like, well, why wouldn't, what is this not a good fit for? And that helps me to zero in on what it actually is and what are the benefits of it. And okay, well, if I understand why you wouldn't want to use it, well, I understand why you would use it. And one more quick tangent here, and then I'm going to have to wrap things up. But one of the best sites that helped me a lot learning in my early days of professional coding is the Daily WTF, believe it or not. And this was founded by another person from Ohio, Alex Papadimoulis, although I think he spends a lot of time in Japan these days. Alex Papadimoulis, hope I'm saying that right. But what this is it's just a fun site where you can submit and like sort of terrible examples of code. And so it's just kind of a humorous site, right? So let's look at one here. So yeah, this is someone built a function to get an item from a list based on an index. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So pass in an index and pass in the list, and it's returning an item in that list based on the index. So you can see here that it is, well, I think it's wrong, A, right? Is it's spinning up a new research control item. No. Well, yeah, well, it is. So there's some things that are wrong with this. It's instantiating a new research control item. Ostensibly, I don't know what, there might be a reason for that, but then it's kind of ignoring that, just throwing it away, and it's saying, okay, based on this list, give me the one that's on this index, and that's the result, and then return the result. Okay? And there's a whole function for this called get research control from list of research controls. This could all be replaced with just this. Now, maybe there should be some additional checks in here, some default values, some sanity checking, things like that. But yeah, this doesn't need to be created. So, but the point of this is not to necessarily make fun of other people, at least in my mind. It's not to make fun of people or, oh, look how dumb this coder is. But by looking at these examples of bad code, here's the story behind it. And you can see, well, why is this bad? And why shouldn't I do it like this? And this really helped me early on to see, well, okay, I can do that instead. Or this doesn't seem dumb to me at first. Why is this dumb? And then maybe it's a real subtle thing in there. Oh, we could avoid this if we just write a little more, write a better variable name, or write a better function name. We can avoid this problem. So I think this is an important way that, maybe not an important way, but it's a way that I think is very valuable to help developers learn, is if you can convey why you shouldn't do it this way. What is a good reason to avoid microservices? It's so, people often see these buzzwords and like, oh, microservice. I got to get into microservices. Microservices are great. All these companies are using them. Netflix is using them. It's great. We should all use them. Before you think about, okay, well, Netflix is using them. Great. I'm glad they're successful. I'm glad it's going well for them. But what are the situations where this approach might not work? And does my project fall into that or not? So I think that's important. The why not. So I want to highlight that here in my agenda. Okay, and then at that point, we'll jump into code, building a very trivial microservice in ASP.NET Core. Then once it's built, we'll deploy to Kubernetes, and once it's deployed, we'll scale it. We'll learn how to scale it if necessary. Scale it when necessary. It's a more optimistic way to say it. When necessary. We'll deploy to Kubernetes. We'll deploy to production. I'll be using Kubernetes, but there are other ways. This isn't the only way. Of course, you don't have to build it in ASP.NET Core either. I don't know if that's worth going into it in the agenda, right? Because everything, after we actually develop the ASP.NET Core application, there's really nothing about it that's ASP.NET Core specific at that point on. So maybe a couple minor things, but we'll deploy to production. Once it's deployed, learn how to scale it necessary. Okay, I think that's probably all I need to cover in the agenda. All right. So goals, aka what I will be covering and what I will not be covering. Okay, that's good. Next section. 2 is intro to, is that the right word? Why not? Okay, so what is a microservice? Why do people create why do people use a microservice architecture? I think that's probably a better way to say it. What is a microservice architecture? Why do people use microservice architecture? Why? What are some situations where a microservice architecture is a bad idea? Or maybe what are the trade-offs? I don't know. What are the trade-offs I need to know about to make a decision on whether to use microservice architecture or not? Okay, I think that's good. And I'll copy one of those, copy one of these. And 2 more minutes here. We're going to get through these section slides. Okay, the next one is develop. That's called develop a microservice. Should be develop or build. Does it really matter? Develop a microservice. Okay, and this is going to be very similar to just building a plain ASP.NET Core site with a couple of differences to make it easier to deploy as a microservice and demonstrate, and some minor things to demonstrate, minor things for demonstration purposes. Some minor things, is that the right word? Demonstration purposes. And some minor features for demonstration purposes. Okay. After develop microservice, we've got deploy microservice. Again, this could be, again, hypothetically, this could be exactly the same way you've always deployed ASP.NET Core websites. However, I'm going to use Kubernetes because its orchestration makes deploying services, I guess, a variety of services. I don't know if it makes, it simplifies, because its orchestration simplifies deploying a variety of services, even though I'm only deploying one service in this session. Even though I'm only deploying one service in this session, a full suite of microservices is better. I'll use better. Maybe easier to manage with an orchestrator, like Kubernetes. All right. And the last one is, well, the second to last one, scale a microservice. Microservice, so independent scaling is one of the top benefits of a microservice architecture. Again, you can use the same scaling methods as before, but with Kubernetes, scaling becomes simplified and declarative. So yeah, I guess I don't know if it's going to be underlying narrative or not, but you could technically, if you've deployed ASP.NET Monolith before, you could just deploy a whole bunch of monoliths, and just consider those to be microservices. Now, maybe that leads me to a section I've missed out on. Maybe I need to cover in. I think I do cover in the why microservices. Buzz FB Live, what's going on? Hey, how are you? Thanks for hanging out. I'm just about to close down the stream here in another 5 minutes or so, but thanks for coming in and joining us. You're doing amazing. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. So yeah, maybe do I talk about it here? Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Talk about the why not up here. Okay. So, well, if you want the truth, I'm stuck on something. Well, let's hear it. If I can solve it in 2 or 3 minutes, then maybe that'd be great. A microservice is just a tiny monolith with a narrow domain focus. I'm stealing that quote. Another quote. I'll credit you for it, Sean. Sean. Quote from Sean. There we go. Now you're in my presentation. Look at that. I'm going to leave out the yeah part. ... A microservice is just a tiny monolith with a narrow domain focus. Okay. All right, I'm going to close up here second, but let's see what the question is here from Buzz FB Live as I find someone to raid. I bought an app from Code PaLOusa, and it's meant to be very, very easy to install. I'm stuck. I don't know what I assume you meant Code Canyon? I don't know what that is. Buy plugins and code from Code Canyon, and it's meant to be very, very easy to install. So what is the app? And what is the problem? What is it that makes you stuck? And anyone else who's on the channel, do you see anybody you'd like to raid in this list here? Very small list. Or anyone else in the Twitch world you'd like us to raid? We'll set that raid up while Buzz FB Live's thinking about or typing in where he's stuck and what the problem is. I'm leaning towards, who's this? Oh gosh, a Google Doc. Well, I'm kind of nervous about opening a random Google Doc. But I'll put an incognito window and see what happens here. News Hour Doc. You're struggling with it. I don't think we're going to have enough time to go through this. It's some sort of Firebase thing. Yeah, sorry, I can't really go through this with you today. Don't have time. I just got to close up here. I've got a meeting I got to get to. Taylor and Code is a someone else. Oops, I can spell it. Someone else we could raid. Buzz FB Live. How about you come back on Thursday? If you're still struggling, come back on Thursday. I'll be here at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and then maybe we can get an earlier start on this and help you work through it. Or you can go to Twitch. Let's see. Go to this link here and find someone else, and they might be able to help you. I know this team member here. Okay, so we're going to raid. Tail Learn Code is who we're going to raid. If you are a subscriber, here are some emotes you can copy and paste for the raid. I would appreciate that. You can drop in your own emotes of your own choice if you're not a subscriber. And just make sure to show some love for Chad and Michael Yodov as we go over there. Thanks for joining, everybody. Thanks, TBD Gamer. Thanks, Code with Sean. Thanks, Saduki. Thanks, Buzz FB Live, for getting in at the buzzer, so to speak. And everybody else who, thanks, Gamlor, Kevin Griffin, everybody else. So I'll see you on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be here. Have a good one, everybody.